All right, here we go again. So today's going to be a little bit different. We are actually going to get into what I would consider being almost the ultimate nerd in terms of figure production, variants in the card backs, both the fronts and the backs. We're going to do a tiny bit of 12 back and then move into the 20 and 21 backs where there's a lot of variability. But just kind of to go over some of the changes that were made throughout the series until Empire Strikes Back. A lot of these, like I said, you can't get any more nerdy than knowing about some of these changes, but it's interesting to look at, and just again from a historical perspective of production, just to see kind of what are these little changes that were in place that not all of us readily recognize. You might know it. Again, some of the books, especially like Mateus's book, points out some of these, but don't make it a big point. I'm going to make it a big point this time, just so you get a flavor of kind of what some variables out there and what helps you identify cards. Anyway, so we'll start right off the bat. Now, one of the interesting things about the 12 backs, some of the distinguishing features on the fronts, I'm not going to talk about all of them, but some of the few are, of course, the LP sticker or the LP logo, as well as the white price sticker in the top left corner. Now, what's interesting is the text under the large Kenner logo here, the text on the Stormtrooper, it's all white. Okay, both there's a copyright as well as meets and exceeds, standards, blah, blah, blah. That's how it is on most of the cards. Now, there are two cards that actually differ, okay? The first of which is the Leia card. Now, on all of the 12 backs, and well, actually it extends into the 20 backs as well, is that you can see that the text above the copyright is actually black. That does change later on, and we'll talk about when that does. The copyright information here is in white. The only other figure of the first 12 that has that same pattern is the Tusken Raider, except the funny part about this is that the copyright is in black. So all the info is in black on the Sand Person or Tusken Raider, whatever you want to call them, as well as the Leia, the copyright is in white, but the meets and exceeds is in black. So just something to look for. So I think, sometimes these are things that can come up when someone's trying to fake a card. They might not necessarily follow that rule, but that's just something to look for. And there's some other things. I think what people always note is the 3 stars that are near the price tag. That's something usually is a dead giveaway. And also the star pattern around the lightsaber. So those are just little things. But that's a very interesting difference in the cards. So that's at the 12. Now, that's the only thing I'm going to talk about the 12 backs. So the next iteration, when they went to release the second 8, the first card back that was supposedly in circulation was the 20A. Now, the 20A had the same card front as the 12 backs. No difference. All of the figures were made in 20As. Okay, and so that's really all you can say about that. But believe it or not, there were some 21A backs that have the same front as the 20A, same front as the 12 backs. But not all of the figures were made in 21As with the same card front. We'll go over that a little bit later. Okay, so we'll move into the second 8 figures. Now, the second 8 figures brings in a whole host of debates that are out there. Were the second 8s debuted on the 20 back C plus cards, meaning with the FET offer, or did they debut on the 20 back B, which is an offerless card? Now, there's countless arguments either way. We know that they were designed around the same time. The FET offer backs were clearly put together and designed in 78. And in fact, the first release of the second 8 were in the Sears Cantina's playset, the first 4. One of those, of course, is the Blue Snaggletooth, which actually never made it onto a true carded figure, so it was not released alone. And of course, the early catalogs that were sent out, believe it or not, featured the second 8, and nowhere in this catalog is there mention of Boba Fett. The second thing that are in these catalogs are all sort of the pre-production photography, thanks to Kim Simmons, that was included in these, and various combinations of these appeared on the subsequent card backs, and we'll go over those in detail. And so for the 20 backs, we have the first card back, and I have these little props just so I don't have to hold figures up. So this is the first 20 back. So this is the 20 back A, and what gives away the 20 back A is there is the pre-production Cantina scene that's here. There's the pre-production Jawa playset. There's the pre-production Dewback, and then some of the minor things about the text are there. The other things that are noted are some of the copyrights. And so you can use, I circled a couple here. You can compare these copyright numbers to the other different card backs and sort of see the progression of at least the release. The other big factor that's on here that's very interesting is that, and this was early in production, they still have the vinyl Cape Jawa that was included on the back. And so, and again, no hint of Fett because this was pre-Fett. But of course, as they're, designing these, the second 8 never appeared on this card back except on the card back itself. And so it's clear that they anticipated the release of the second 8 without regard to Fett at some point. And some people will say, well, these were European, Australia releases that did not have the Fett offer, which, is true. But the timing of the release has been contended, quite, I don't want to say vehemently or violently or aggressively, but there's a lot of debate about it. But there's some pieces of evidence that we'll talk about later that kind of argues both ways. Okay, so the next one that came out, of course, was the 20B. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to say it absolutely came out first. It's just a variant of the card back. So this is a smaller one. But the 20B, what's interesting is that, again, the copyright numbers, there is a 79 copyright date as opposed to the 28 or all the 77 copyright. In fact, let me get... I had made mention before that I'm getting old. So yes, indeed. So we have the 77 copyright, which covers a lot of the original 12. And then you have a, what is that, a 78? '79 copyright in this area here. And so most people took that as an indication that this came out after the 20 or the Fett offer 20 backs, because on the Fett offer 20 back, it has a 78 copyright here. The reason why that is mainly the copyrights don't have anything to do necessarily with the release. It's just sort of the layout, the design of everything, or the copyright of the images that are involved in that. Now, what's also interesting on the 20B, one of the differences, or a couple of the differences, are now the pre-production Dewback is still there. The pre-production droid factory is still there. But the production Jawa playset and the production Cantina scene are both there. So that's the major differences beyond the copyright. And they still use the vinyl Cape Jawa. Now, when you get to the 20 back or the Fett offer, as I already talked about, the copyright still has 1978. There's no 1979 on here. And then you also have the production cantina and the production Jawa playsets on here. So you know that these cards were essentially made or designed in a similar time frame. Now the final design, obviously on this one at least, suggests that part of it was early in the year of 1979. And so again, that's where people argue a lot. But there have been price tags on the 20Bs that have been dated to early 79, and these supposedly were not released until after Toy Fair in 79. So, you know, think what you want, but those are just some of the differences. Now, when you get into the actual figures themselves, one thing that changed is on the 20Bs, one of Snaggletooth here, is that again, they removed the white price tag sticker and they removed the LP circle, okay? And what you're left with is this sort of Kenner logo with the, you know, testing information in white text below that. Again, when you look at the 20As, they look just like the 12-back As, at least the front. Okay. Now, we went over the back. The 20B of this compared to the 20A, again, you can see that it's missing the LP, let me get the glare right, the LP circle and the white price tag. But other than that, looks pretty similar. Okay. Now, again, as I said, the 20B, there was a very limited number of the first 12 that were released on the 20Bs. Not all of them were there. Chewbacca, Jawa, Death Star, Stormtrooper, 3PO, and I think that's all. The rest of them have never been seen on 20Bs. Now, why that is, I don't know. I've tried to find out that information, but clearly my sources are terrible, and I have not been able to come up with why that is, but that's all I've found so far. Now, one of the interesting things is, of course, the next one in the sequence, at least, is the 20, what I call 20C pluses, meaning the FET offer ones. And so, as we know, this is what we standardly saw as the Starburst with the FET offer. We have the Kenner logo, and then we have the white text below. But what's interesting about the FET offers is that this card front is not the same for all figures. Now, what you'll notice is that for the second 8, Greedo obviously in that group, is that this is what you see, meaning that you have the Kenner logo with the white text there. Now, if you look at the first 12 on 20-back FET offer cards, you have a different front. You have still the same Starburst logo. You have a larger Kenner logo. And then, of course, all the texting information, including the copyright, is down below in white text. The Tusken Raider that was once all black is now all white. The Leia that was once black quality texting with a white copyright is now all white. And so this just gives you, again, black text with a white copyright. Now it's all white text on the Leia. The Tusken Raider was once all black text. Now it's Kenner logo with all white text. So that's a very interesting difference between the two cards, at least in terms of the character themselves. And then, like I said, the first 12 have the larger Kenner logo with all white. The second 8 have the smaller Kenner logo with all white. So it's just something that's consistent throughout the FET offer backs, which I thought was very interesting in terms of the front differences. It's something that not a lot of people highlight, but I thought I would try to bring bring a little bit new information in the fold and show that to y'all. Now, of course, after the 20 backs, well, guess what? The 21 backs. All right, so now the 21 backs in the front are all pretty much very similar, meaning that you have, for the second 8, you have the 20B, and then you have the 21, this is a 21A. So the fronts are very similar. There's not really any differences in those. But as I said, some 21As had the 12 back front. This, of course, that's the 20B. Let me get the... So this is a 21A, and this is a 21A. So you see there's a difference. And again, not all of the 21As had the LP circle on the front. Some of the 21As had this front, okay, meaning without the LP. So it's very interesting that they have those sort of differences, and that, again, not all characters were released on LP Circle 21As. Again, I don't know what the logic was. I don't know if it had to do with stocking, meaning some are greater, in greater stock numbers or whatever. I don't know that. Now, what's interesting also, well, I'll go over, sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I apologize. This is a lot of information. I'm trying to organize it. But we did have this is a 20 back FET offer. That was the last special offer that they put the sticker over. And again, it's interesting that you can see that just like before, since this is a 20C plus back, it has the, for a first 12 figure, has the large Kenner logo and the all white text underneath. And the back just has the offer sticker over the Boba Fett, since they've pretty much moved on and gone to the next one. So that's very interesting. Anyways, back to the 21 backs. So the 21 back, of course, everybody knows it looking like this. What's interesting about the 21A is, of course, you have the location of the proof of purchase. It still has the pre-production dewback, still has the pre-production droid factory, but has the production Cantina scene and Jawa playset. They've also switched the Jawa, so now it's a cloth cape Jawa. So those are the two, or some of the bigger differences. You go back to and again, I kind of get my eyes on the copyrights on these, and you have the 77 because you've got these, a couple of elements on here that have been there for a while. And then, of course, you have the 79, just because these, once again, these were developed, or at least copyrighted, more so in the beginning of the year 79. Now, when you compare the 21A with the 21B, you have they move the proof of purchase, and everything on here now is production, okay? And again, cloth cape Jawa again. And so you can see how there's been this sort of wave of development that you can see on these card backs in terms of what was going on at Kenner in terms of design and release. I kind of made this ridiculous cheat sheet here that kind of goes through all these changes, where you have the 20A, B, C, and then 21A, B, and C. And you can see that, like on the 20As, most of the pictures were pre-production. Then they whittled it down to just the dewback and the droid factory. And the 20B and the 21As are essentially similar, except for the Jawa. The Jawa was cloth cape on the 21A, but the other one had the vinyl cape. And then, of course, on the 20Cs, as we talked about before, the Jawa and the Cantina were production pictures. And so that just kind of gives you an idea. And then, of course, the 21B was the first card back that had all of the pictures that were production. Okay, so that's just kind of a gross overview of that. And then you have the 21C. Now, the 21C The cover had now the Bosk offer, another starburst pattern. But again, this was over an offerless card, not over a 20 back FET, because it's obviously a 21 back. I mean, that's a kind of a no-brainer. But anyways, and then of course they had this special offer sticker that covered the picture of the vehicles and playsets. Now, one of the questions that came up when trying to redo the Kellerman Matrix is, what cardbacks are these? Are these 21A? Are they 21As or 21Bs? Well, there is a way to tell, and there's a way to tell that's fairly straightforward, and that is through the copyright information that's on the bottom. Because as I said, the 21A and the 21Bs are different, and the way that they're different is the 21Bs have 2 copyright years here. 21A only has 1 copyright year. So when you're looking at your 21Cs, you can actually look at the bottom and see how many copyright dates do they have. This happens to have the 2, so it's a 21B card back converted to a 21C. So anyway, so you can actually, if you really are that, how would I put it, gung-ho about which card backs do you really have on your 21Cs, you can go back there and look at all of those different ones and see, oh, this one is a 21A that was converted to a 21C or 21, whatever. But that might produce a lot more variance in terms of the card backs that were actually used. So for example, I would think that a 21A converted to a 21C is much more uncommon than a 21B converted to a 21C. Go figure. That's a lot of information, but you know, you can deal with it. Now, so all that said, there's a lot of little differences that really give you kind of a flavor on sort of what the path to development was to all this. But there is one card back that trumps all that, and that was the FET card back. Okay. So what's interesting is that if you go through the card back itself, so you have a 21A, it is the same 21A as it is, before. But if you look at the card front, now of course this is the large Kenner logo, but it's all black text. Again, if we go back, this is the other 21A of the second 8. Large Kenner, or it's a smaller Kenner logo, but all the text is white. Okay, so that's a very clear difference between the two. Okay, and that large Kenner logo on the FET with the dark text is maintained throughout the 21 back series of Boba Fett. Okay, so that's something that's very different than the rest of them. So this is a 21A. Okay, 21A because of the location of the proof of purchase. You go to the 21B, again, same thing, large logo, dark text underneath, 21B origin. And then lastly, the 21C, same thing, large Kenner logo, dark text. And then this one, let me find my eyes. This has 2 copyright dates here. So this was a 21B before, which is what you would expect. So it would be interesting to see a FET 21A that had been converted to a 21C. Now, I quite honestly have never looked for that, but that's something that, for those people that really want a lot of variations, that's something that you can look for. So anyway, so the other thing that I didn't go over, and I'll tell you it's the last thing that we'll talk about. When you look at the 20Bs, when you look at the large Kenner logo and you have all the text underneath, what is underneath is the copyright. And again, it's all in white. When you look at the 20Bs of the second 8, you only have the sort of, you know, wear and tear or meets and exceeds text, but the copyright is actually above the nameplate here. So again, that's another little thing you can look for that can distinguish some fakes, because some people that produce these might put the copyright down below the Kenner logo as opposed to where it's supposed to be for the second 8 above the nameplate. Anyways, but those are all little things that you can look for. These are variations that, unfortunately, as the internal nerd that I am, look at. It actually makes sometimes collecting a little bit more interesting, because you can look for different variants that you wouldn't normally look for if you didn't know to look for them. You know, it's almost like what's going on now. If numbers are going up because we're looking for it, kind of thing. Anyways, well, that's all I'm going to talk about. That's a lot of variants. It's a lot of little things to look for. Have any questions, just message me. It's a tremendous amount of information. It took me years to even begin to understand any of it. But again, I'm a little slow. Anyways, that's all I have today. Hope you guys are having a safe time. And like I said, as I always say, do what's necessary. These are critical days here. So, all right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.